Hi, I'm Rob and it's Soulforge review time. I'll tell you what I think is good in a Soulforge this week, what is worth getting and what's worth avoiding. Anyway, I ate a clown once. It tasted funny. Oh, that one was given to me by Horndog SA, by the way. Yeah, nearly as bad as my jokes. Anyway, let's take a look in the Soulforge. We'll go over the weapons first. Fire and Ice. Deals damage to all enemies, looks like a 1-to-1 ratio with your magic, and give 2 life to all allies. Okay, the 2 life is an incredibly tiny amount, and that can't be adjusted by magic. That is going to be a set amount no matter what your game level, but the damage will increase as you go up in magic. Damage to all is really good against opponents which are stealthy. But not so good against opponents which are submerged, because that is a way to dodge it. But generally you can use a weapon like this against troops that are stealthy, or you just want to hit everyone, like Arachnian Weaver. They're stealthy. Life and Death, they're sometimes or normally stealthy, things like that. Very good in those sort of situations. So a pretty decent weapon. That I think I'll be probably grabbing that one myself. Doomed Blade deals magic +3 damage, it looks like. Damage to all enemies, +1 per tempering level. Transform red gems to doom skulls. So you can plan this. You can actually look and see on the board whether you're going to get any damage with that or not. Sometimes with these weapons that just generate skulls, you are relying a little bit on luck. But if you generate a lot of skulls with those other doomed weapons that do that, then the likelihood is you're going to get a lot of damage, but it's still not guaranteed. These ones, of course, it's not going to be as many skulls a lot of the time, because obviously you're only going to transform red, but the advantage of these ones is you can clearly see which gems are going to change to skulls. So therefore you can see if you're going to get a 4 match straight away and get some damage and an extra turn, as well as do damage to all enemies. Really good. Doomed Blade, I do like it a lot. Not so good on defense, like Guild Wars defense, as the other ones are, but still really good. I like it a lot. Stone Slicer. Don't want to be slicing stones, I want to be slicing enemies. What slice a stone for? Anyway, deals damage to an enemy boosted by construct allies, then create a mix of 6 purple and brown gems for each construct ally. So you're going to create more gems for each construct ally in the team, so best in an all construct team, and uses blue and purple, but creates purple and brown. So this can self-charge, so that is actually pretty useful. But kind of situational at the same time. Not the best in all situations, obviously. Korag's Invention. Looks a bit complicated. Deals 46 damage to an enemy in my case. That will again change on your magic level. Boosted by Drakzum allies. So you need more Drakzum allies on your team to increase the damage of this. Then create a mix of 6 blue and brown gems for each Drakzum ally. Uses red and yellow. Creates blue and browns. Unlike the other weapon, this will not self-charge at all, so you need to make sure the other allies in your team use blue and brown to make this in any way viable. Kegs Crusher. Crush your kegs. Deal damage to an enemy boosted by dwarf allies, so this time you need dwarf allies on your team to get the boost. Then create a mix of 6 blue and brown for each dwarf ally. Again, this uses purple and green, so cannot self-charge, but you need to make sure those dwarf allies do use blue and brown in some capacity to benefit from those gem creations. But yeah, a lot of situational weapons there, but that is the pick of the bunch for me. I do a lot of that. I'll be grabbing that myself a little bit later on. Now on to the troops. Start from the bottom and work our way up. And first up is Ullor. Underrated. Ullor's underrated. I really like him. He's so handy. Even on Guild Wars defense, this spell and that third trait. Eliminates your magic-based attack from the first 2 enemies, which is decent anyway. Then the same amount of magic from the last 2 enemies, and quite often the strongest enemies are quite often in the 3rd and 4th places, which is the last 2 enemies. And drain all mana from the 2 strongest. The strongest is the ones with the highest combined life and armor. So you can see clearly who that is going to affect when he casts that spell. Now that can be super useful. You can actually just cast this once or twice, reduce the magic of the teams by so much it makes them powerless. And the cool thing about it is, as you start killing opponents, say I'll jump to the end. Say you've killed the first 2 opponents, but you've got the last 2 are really, really powerful. They are automatically the first 2 and the last 2 now. So those effects get affected by... They get everything. They get the magic reduction, they get the damage reduction, they get mana drained. Ullor. Really good. And that third trait, I've actually popped him into teams before just for that third trait. Freeze is really good against goblin teams and those teams that like to loop and things like that. And Fairy Fire as well, really good. In damage to all teams that you've got other troops that do damage to all. Fairy Fire, they take 50% extra damage. That is super useful, and you get both of those effects just by matching blue gems. Do like Ullor. Very good indeed. Mambasira. She's got loads of arms. 6 of them. Deals, well, from a low amount to a decent amount of damage to 6 random enemies. So one arm just wangs out, bumps into someone, gives them a punch, gives them a stone whack, and the random amount is the thing I don't like about this. It's going to be anywhere between, what, 144 up to just below 300. So it's like a really big difference in the damage. So yeah, that's the thing I don't like about it. And it's the 6 random enemies. Sometimes she'll go around punching people you didn't really want her to hit, and other times she will, but it won't be enough to kill them, and other times it will. I don't like troops that do random stuff. I prefer to know kind of what is going to happen. The exception to the rule is Tina to a certain degree. Tina 9000, that does do a random damage, but that is true damage, and she gets a bunch of armor as well, where this one simply just does a random amount of damage to 6 random enemies. And it's not like the traits are anything special either. The second one is okay, reduce damage from spells by 25%. But all green allies gain 1 to all stats at the start of each turn is pretty good when you're a newer player. But the further you progress into the game and the higher level you get, the less and less that sort of thing becomes irrelevant, as we want to end games quicker. And basically that's going to take too long to be effective if you're a higher level player. But kind of useful if you're a newer player, to be honest. Suna. She's concentrating really hard because her hands are really hot. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. Steals life from the from the 2 weakest enemies, then steal 8 magic from the 2 strongest enemies. So you can see how that's going to work. Stealing takes it away from them and adds it to your own. So even though the first cast of this, it doesn't sound like it's going to be particularly a lot, because you've just gained 16 magic, because you've gained that from the 2 strongest enemies, that amount of life you steal is going to go up on the next cast, and so on. Again, the traits are nothing fantastic. She's okay, but it just needs a little bit more, that spell, to make her good. It's okay. It just feels like it needs something else to make it good. Sorry, Suna, but you're not quite there. The World Breaker. 30 mana cost. Yes, that is not a typo. Explodes 18 gems on the board. That is a set amount. This is quite handy if you're a newer player to the game. A lot of spells and mythics, they gain power on the spell as your magic increases. This is not the case. This explodes 18 gems whether you are a level 1 player just started today and happen to open this mythic, or level 50,000 player because you've done nothing else your whole life. Then deals magic based damage to all enemies. Again, damage to all enemies is handy because it's good for hitting those stealthy opponents, and it has a lot of mana gen, but it does work in some teams. But there's a lot of mana gen weapons now which do a similar kind of thing and explode a lot of gems, but without that mana cost. So the World Breaker is becoming more collectible for me as time goes on. Was that 4? The World Breaker, Suna, maybe? Yes. Alright, so we'll just look at the legendaries ever so quickly. Again, don't recommend you actually spend your diamonds to craft these, because they will pop up in gems way more often than a mythic will. So save your diamonds. Unless it's somebody extraordinarily good, which is no one here. Gain 4 magic and either gain magic based life or deal 40 damage to all enemies. That's based on my magic level. Or gain 10 more magic. Way too random. Go away. Dullahan. Deal magic plus 4 damage to an enemy boosted by ally and enemy deaths then kill either the first enemy or first ally. Now there is probably a way to use this team sensibly, especially with that last bit, kill either the first enemy or first ally, but I haven't thought of it yet, and it must be useful somehow. But like I say, I haven't thought of it yet. Gruz the Undefeated needs to change his name because he's been defeated so many times it is actually ridiculous. It's now false advertising. Deals damage to an enemy, curse them, and inflict 2 to 4 stacks of bleed. Yeah. Leviathan, actually pretty decent. Dispels all enemies, which is a good effect and is underused in Gems of War. Dispel removes positive effects such as Barrier, Enchanted, and Enraged. Really, really good. And that then deals damage to them boosted by blue gems and knock the first enemy to last position. Again, an underused talent or trait, if you like. Knocking the first enemy to last position can really mess up how a team works a lot of the time. If you've got like a really tanky troop in first place, like Stonehammer, who's just really difficult to defeat, or Leonis Tower, it just muddles their team around and then just can often just completely mess up the way it's intended to work. As well as doing damage, as well as dispelling, pretty good. And as well as that, it's immune to stun, devour, and will submerge itself on 4 or 5 gem matches. So Leviathan is actually a decent troop and the best one there for me out of those legendaries. But who's going to get my super coveted Mythic of the Week? Not the Worldbreaker. Sorry, Suna, but you're good, but you're just lacking something. Bambasira can just do a lot of damage or just not a lot. So I'm going to give it to Ullor. I actually quite like Ullor. Very good in the way I explained earlier. That eliminating attack, taking away magic can absolutely cripple the enemy team really, really quickly. And failing that, he's going to freeze and verify a random enemy just by matching blue gems. And remember, that can be any blue gems from any of your team. So you get a blue team that repeats a lot on blue, the whole enemy team is going to be fairy fired and frozen in no time at all. So like Ullor, he's my Mythic of the Week. I'll be back later on with my World Event team, so be sure to catch that. But thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think of the weapons and troops in the comments, and I'll catch you again a bit later. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.